I remember growing up in um, on Marengo, and this big yellow house is still there, and life was pretty good. My mom, when she had all her ducks in a row, greatest lady ever. I remember when my dad would come home in the evenings, um, he would always ride me on his feet. You know, um, and I remember that was my big deal, and I would look forward to that every day. Um, and that pretty much went on probably the first 5 years of my life. Yeah, about 5 years. And then that's when my mom and dad split, and life took a huge change then at that time. They had a big argument, and um, I remember him getting in the car and leaving. I didn't see my dad much more after that. Um, so it was just kids and mom. My mom, she had mental problems, and she, used drugs and drank and pills and all that stuff. The mother that would cook 3 meals a day and change us 2, 3 times a day and was forever putting us in the bathtub, that stuff ceased, and it was just about her using. Up till going up to 9, that's when her disease really took off, and the mental health really took off, and she was using a lot, and she went to prison, and we went to foster homes. Um, that was probably the most horrific part of my life because she would leave us, and other folks would come in, and I can remember strangers coming in the house, and she had a boyfriend. I remember this, and I didn't like him. They got into a big fight, and he left, and my mom went into the room and closed the door, and she was in there crying. When I opened the door to the room, she was cutting her wrist, and blood was squirting out everywhere, and she was yelling and screaming, and I just sat there with her and put a pillow under her and held her, and she was talking to me, and she just kept saying I was her little man. And I remember him putting her on the gurney and taking her to the hospital. By that time, my grandmother got there. And I remember praying, 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 praying. Oh my God, I never prayed and sweated so much in my life to ask God to not take her. You know what I mean? Fix her, whatever needs to be done. And I heard my grandmother let out this scream that comes from way in here. And I knew she was gone. And I instantly went from hope to anger and rage. I remember that day saying that I would never trust God again and all of that stuff in my life, because that was the only woman, only real love, even though it was in bits and pieces, and even though it was sprinkled with the disease of addiction, that was the only love I knew. And I remember saying that I'd never love again. If it wasn't her, I wasn't gonna love.
I believe that he's still in the healing process of the little boy who, for a long time, he missed his mother, and it was difficult for him to even talk about her suicide. But over the years, he's got better and better with it, and um, I think he's kind of healing through raising our son. I think that's helped him a lot in those areas. So
Went back to my grandmother's, and she pretty much raised us. My grandmother, I love her with all my heart and soul, but my grandmother came from a time when um, discipline was physical. So at 9, I started smoking weed. The pop was one hit off the la la land. So that became my coping mechanism. After weed, I started smoking PCP. After the PCP, I went to the Navy, stopped smoking PCP, came home. I've pretty much done anything. My grandmother and my grandfather were both church folks. And there was I was a junior deacon when I was a youngster. And there was Deacon Lonnie King. I still call him, I still keep in contact with him, all of that stuff. He was probably one of the people that helped instill man stuff in me. Before him was Mr. Zetail. And because I was in special classes, I had him in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And he was phenomenal.
Often that spiritual, religious, that mentor, that person in the community that's not judging them, who's accepting them, giving them that unconditional love, can help them find the words and the resources to meet their needs.
The good people, I think, had a more lasting effect than all the other stuff. You know what I mean? Those were men that I would want to be like. You know, that's why I work with parent partners and helping men get custody or visitation of their kids and stuff like that, because I really believe that a father has a real huge place in a kid's life.
He's not only accepting the support, he's giving back the support. That helps remind him of where he's come from, where he doesn't want to go back to, and just helps him keep focused on what he really needs to in order to be a positive role model in our community, not just for our community, but for his own kids as well.
I have 6 kids. I wanted to be this Huxtable dad, because I wasn't there for a lot of years. I always get in these diseased relationships with women that are using. Charlene has been the greatest woman that I've ever had in my life. I've never had somebody healthy like her. You know, she doesn't need me to fix her. Ricky is 3. That is my pride and joy. I mean, I love all my kids. I mean, I don't love him more than I love the other ones. But in Ricky, I see all of my other kids put together. I found out probably in the 80s that I had chronic hypertension. But my using and not going to doctors and not eating right, it just got worse. And eventually, what I've learned about hypertension is that it ruins your kidneys. And my kidneys are 0 now as a result of the uncontrolled hypertension. So now I'm on dialysis. I just want to be able to be a part of his life. And one of the things that's real huge for me is that I have to take care of myself physically.
When I first met Robert, Robert was running away from a lot of things. And there's a lot of things that Robert didn't want to face. And today I see him facing those things. And I see him not being afraid to ask someone for help if that's what he needs. And that's really the important issue, is getting to a place to where you start to become comfortable with actually who you are and what you are.
And I'm real grateful. And that's as a result of me doing a lot of work on myself, tons and tons and tons, and I probably ain't even halfway done yet. But I know that when I heal, I get stuff to help them heal. My purpose for doing this is part of my healing, and is part of me reaching back, that hopefully somebody will see this or hear this or whatever and relate to my stuff and know that we can overcome, that we can be healed, that we don't have to be kept hostage by our past and those traumatic events, we do get a chance to get better.
Oh yeah! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Ooh, go Ricky, go!